Alright.
Okay, minutes stand approved. For our new business, we have Chief Blakely with an authorization for an as-needed service contract with Fred Robertson Record Service.
Good afternoon, Council and Mayor. You'll know Selvin came a couple weeks ago to do the same thing. So basically, we need to do our contracts for not to exceed $22,000 with Fred Robertson for our contract records. These records are when we have to tow vehicles that are abandoned or also involved in a crime that we have to get off the streets.
All right, any questions?
I'll make a motion.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you, motion passes. Next, we have, Chief again with an authorization for as-needed services with Awesome Towing LLC.
Yes, ma'am. This is the exact same thing, but this gives an $8,000. This gives us a secondary towing company in case Fred Robertson cannot get the tow or we exceed that amount. So we have other options.
All right, any questions?
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Oh, I'm sorry.
Can I ask him a question? Chief, the guy that was here 2 weeks ago,
Ziggy.
yeah, what was?
So,
I saw you were talking to him.
yes, sir. I went and talked to them afterward. So basically, they have a rule for ball games that after the game, that the towing lots have to stay there for 2 hours after the game to release the vehicles, and they cannot charge basically an after-hours fee for that. He's requesting that the police department and council review that and make it to where if somebody, once the ball game's over with, if somebody comes out, that they have to pay an after-hours tow fee for that. And also, he was talking about a 3% credit card fee. He just disagreed with some of our fee structures. He met today, he met with Councilman Fail, I believe, Saturday.
Saturday morning.
And we're reviewing those documents and we'll present something that we think is fair.
And I was pleased when I went up to the police department today to see Chief Clark. He was working on, he didn't know that's why I was coming, but he was working on it when I got there. So I appreciate it.
Chief. In that light, can I ask a quick question?
Yes,
Hey, Raven, can I ask a
Yes.
question? Yeah. Do you know what the current structure is? I mean, like of how, is it per tow, it's so much money, or is it
Yes, sir.
per hour? How does it work?
It's per tow, so like for a standard tow for a contract record, Fred Robertson, we have $92 is what that tow is to do that. If we have to go to our secondary tow for Awesome Towing, they're bidding it as $115. Those are for contract
Like a
records.
pickup or a car?
Yes, sir. But now if we call rotation, if somebody gets arrested or car breaks down and they come get them, it's rotation, it's not going to our evidence lot, it's $185 to get that.
But then there's another charge to release the car. And it's expensive if you don't come get it for a few days. So there's a number of, I felt like I got a bit of an education with this, but it kind of made my head spin.
Yeah, you have storage fees associated with how long it takes.
That's in the
It sits there and
That's-
on
that's-
top of the other fee.
Yeah,
it is.
and then the after hours fee is what you're referring
Can't
to.
control what they
But
charge.
currently, whatever our stated rate is, there is no adjustment to that for anything until the council takes a vote again down the road. There's not like an escalator, there's not something that says every year we're gonna add blank percentage to it or nothing.
I would
Like,
check
it's
that
just
out.
flat, it's a flat rate, so it's changed.
I believe that's been after the council.
I think that it's in there, I found that out this morning with Chief Clark, that it's, cost of, not the cost of living, but whatever that is. What?
The southeastern CPI.
Okay.
That probably is fair to the.
I think the big issue this guy has, the big issue to me, he's the towing company that you might remember a couple of years ago. Some of his employees were attacked down here on the strip. I think Chief Smith and Chief Clark were down there as it was happening, and they jumped in and helped. But one of his employees wound up in the hospital. And I think one of his concerns, and I understand it, is if they call to get their car out of the lot at 3:30 in the morning, is that really safe? Because the police can't be down there with them. And so I wish we could somehow wait, after a certain hour, so you can get it. I'll be down there at 7:30 in the morning. I don't know if that's reasonable or not, but I just see that as a safety issue.
And we're looking into all of this.
Sure, I know.
Get back
What
to y'all.
company does he with?
Awesome. He was here, the gentleman that was here last Tuesday night.
Okay.
I don't think anybody jumped on him, chief, but they sure jumped on his employees.
Yes, sir, I remember that incident, it was, I believe it was actually 8 a.m.
I think it was.
Alright,
Thank
any more
y'all so much.
questions for Chief?
Thanks, Chief.
Okay, I think you had a motion in a second.
Yeah, I forgot, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, we're good, okay. Next we have a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a permissive use agreement with SAH. Mr. Holmes?
Good afternoon. You may recall about this time last year, we executed a permissive use agreement with Dockside, this is the Southern Ale House location up on the lake. What this does is it allows them to use a large grass area beside their restaurant as a place for lawn games and other things for people to be able to hang out when they're waiting. We've had it in place for the last year. It's actually kind of hard to believe it's been a year. It's been, I think, successful from everyone's account, so this just renews it, getting.
I make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Alright, motion passes. I remember that conversation, I'm happy it's working out.
It is.
Now we will have a presentation, you ready, Nick?
Yes, ma'am.
Alright.
Thank you, Ms. Howard, and thank you, members of the committee and members of the council. In putting together today's presentation, it took me back to 1985. And many of you may remember, that is when the city transferred from a commission form of government to a council form of government. And as Mr. Fell well knows, prior to 1985, that public safety was under a
Commissioner.
commissioner form of government. And so the idea of a concept of public safety, the way that we're structured today, it's been in existence 40 years. And I cannot say enough about the work of the city, our previous leaders, certainly our current leadership in Chief Blankley and Chief Dell. But in how we approach 40 years, we have to think about what sort of changes have we seen over the last 40 years. I mean, just in the last 20 years, think about the technology changes we've seen in our lives. Think about Tuscaloosa. During 1985, the census data was around 77,000. Today, our census data is 115,000. Just in sheer population, this city has changed. But look at the world around us and what's changed over the last 40 years. 40 years ago, we didn't have terrorism. We didn't know that 9/11 would be coming. We hadn't heard of mass shootings. There was no Columbine. Certainly, there was no Uvalde, which just happened 2 years ago. There were no New Orleans, where people take a truck and drive it down a busy intersection, a tourist place. There was no such things as cyber terrorism, ransomware, those dangers that now we face and discuss. It feels like on a monthly basis, just us as a body here in Tuscaloosa. In 1985, the city wasn't dealing with public health threats. I mean, we think maybe of COVID-19, and certainly that comes first and foremost. But I seriously doubt at the time, and I could not find any run rates for 1985, but I suspect that structure fires were a higher percentage in 1985 than they are today. And I suspect that medical calls were less, and certainly the number of mental health calls were less than it was this time 40 years ago. And then 40 years ago, we didn't deal with the issues of social unrest. I know in the last few years, we've had to deal with that particular issue and activating incident commands just to deal with the issue of social unrest in our own community, and obviously climate change. And when I say that, I'm not talking about the attribution of who is responsible for the earth warming, but it is. I mean, we've seen the effects of what climate can do in Tuscaloosa, what Mother Nature can do, and certainly what happened a few weeks ago in Kerr, Texas, where our brave men with Tuscaloosa Fire and Rescue were out serving. It's just a stark reminder that it rains more, that there is more violent weather, and those climate changes can impact every single one of us. So today, when I'm making a recommendation to you, it's about taking all those things that we as a city are ultimately responsible for and figuring out what is the best methodology, what is the best approach, what is the best model to take on all those challenges. So today, in talking about the creation of the Department of Public Safety, there are 5 key reasons why I'm making this recommendation to you. First is a unified response. Second is maximizing the resources that we have. Third is to create shared innovation among multiple departments. 4 is event management, and 5 is mental health. So let me go through. First, unified response. As you see in the top picture, we understand what that means. On April 27, 2011, when 13% of our city was destroyed, we understand the wrath of Mother Nature. But we also saw the best of humanity. But it's just not an April 27th that requires a unified response. You see the picture of the strip below. More than 15 times a year now, we're requiring unified response just on the strip itself. You want to talk about changes since 1985, I doubt we had any unified response in 1985 on the strip. I know 20 years ago we did not. But today, just think about the
I
extraordinary
can
amount
attest to that, we did not in 1985.
enormous amount of resources that we are having to pour in to areas of our city like this, and the need for a unified response when something happens. Last Saturday, we had the fire in waste recycling. That involved 4 city departments that were responsible in that response. Certainly Tuscaloosa Fire and Rescue taking the lead, but other departments. As emergencies happen more often, as they become more complex, they require more than just one department. They required a unified response from the city of Tuscaloosa. Here's the other thing, is it requires planning in advance, and most of the time these emergencies do not happen on a business calendar of Monday through Friday from 8 to 5. And so being ready, being prepared every moment of every day with training, with processes, with institutional norms for unified response. For cities moving forward, it's going to be an absolute must. The second reason is maximizing our resources. This city council has done so much to support public safety. There hasn't been a moment where you have turned your back on the men and women that serve us, whether they're a police officer or whether they're a firefighter. The taxpayers have shown their support, and beginning next October 1st, 2026, the taxpayers will be investing $250 million into a retirement plan to support our amazing firefighters and police officers. It's by far, and it's not even close, the largest investment in our city's history. Today, 40% of our general fund goes towards fire and police and to public safety. That number is going to continue to rise as we continue to make that investment into RSA. But that doesn't mean we give a blank check, or we should give a blank check. We should maximize every single dollar. And just because it flows into fire or flows into police should not mean that it's a sacred cow. And we should be maximizing our resources every single day. Our chiefs have an incredible job, an incredible task. You can only imagine. You like me see every morning when I forward you the email of significant events exactly what we're dealing with. Creating mechanisms and structures in place, though, to ensure we're spending our money the right way every single moment, every single day, I believe is an absolute must. The third reason is shared innovation. I can't say enough about the leadership of Tuscaloosa Police Department and our Cyber Intelligence Division and where it's moved over the past 3 to 4 years. I get a lot of pride when Brent shares with me, this city's coming to take a look at us. This city's coming to take a look at us. You know about other technologies we're going to be implementing within the Tuscaloosa Police Department that's going to make this community safer. I think it's very important, though, those technologies are not just held in one department. There are aspects of those technologies that can be used that should be shared throughout our public safety apparatus. And there's no doubt that by creating a mechanism where those silos are eliminated, shared data, shared intelligence sharing would mean huge gains, not just for police department, but also public safety, and also, frankly, just in the overall public safety that we're providing anywhere in our city. I think it also creates a culture within both departments that innovation, technology, being on the cutting edge is paramount. the challenges that I talked about, whether it's mass shootings, cyber, public health, social unrest, climate change, technology is going to be on the forefront of tackling those issues in the future. And we need an overarching department that every day is leading that vanguard for the people of Tuscaloosa. And we also know this, it is harder than it's ever been to recruit police officers. In 2 years, we're going to lose a large number of firefighters. The use of technology is going to be paramount in us and continue to provide the public safety services that we need and must have here in the city of Tuscaloosa. The next reason is event management. Tuscaloosa is unique. We're only a city of 115,000 people. Yet last year we hosted over 50 plus events where we were either the lead or co-agency in providing security and safety. That's probably why you see a city like Auburn also have a public safety department, and a city like Mobile where you have Mardi Gras and other large events. The pressure we put on our public safety to provide security and safety, it's hard to describe. I get a better view than most, but what it takes to pull off not just a presidential visit or a football game or even security at Mercedes-Benz, especially since what happened in Las Vegas in 2017 or 18. But even a small events like the Mayor's Cup where you only have 2,000 people, or Live at the Plaza, or holidays at the Plaza. It is the city of Tuscaloosa who is ultimately responsible for managing that event, making certain that the assets we need are there, whether they're rescue assets, whether they're police assets, whether they're the right assets within those particular departments, whether there are other resources that are needed from other departments, such as you may find in a Mayor's Cup or a presidential visits or an Alabama football game or a Mercedes-Benz show. The good news, the thing I'm most proud of, is most of the time you don't see the security apparatus. You don't see the work that goes into 1 out of 7 days that the city of Tuscaloosa is providing that for the people of Tuscaloosa. That number is not going to decrease. That number is going to continue to increase. And since Tuscaloosa is basically the hub for West Alabama, we are going to continue to have people come into our city, and the pressures that we're going to put onto police and fire to be organized, ready to take on that challenge are not going away. Many of you know about the threat levels that we see and understand the pressures that are there and why, again, this is another key reason why I believe creating this department is in the best interest of the city in making us safer. Next is one that I know we talked about a lot, but it's mental health. I doubt in 1985 they were worried about the mental health needs. And even in 2005 when I was elected mayor, mental health was clearly a state of Alabama issue. It has landed here. And I don't think there's a day that goes by that I do not get an email, a text, or multiple emails and texts from either you or from constituents dealing with somebody that is having mental health issues. Today at TPD, we have 26 officers who in some way are assigned to mental health. We have Craig Parker is full-time dedicated to that. How many mental health officers do we have that are certified?
We have 7 certified mental health, 2 full-time, and 26 CITs.
On the fire side, we have 2 social workers. Certainly what our paramedics and our firefighters, they're on the front lines of this response. The city of Tuscaloosa has nearly spent $6 million on mental health services. I think all of us would like to think that the next administration and at the state level is going to solve mental health, but they're not. And the pressure on us to provide coordinated, effective mental health services is going to be on the city of Tuscaloosa. People come to this city because they believe they're going to get the mental health services they need. Whether that's true or not, that is where we are today. And that pressure is going to fall squarely on the city. And right now, that pressure is falling squarely on primarily 2 departments. Now, we're certainly hopeful that the things that CNS does with funding and that Mental Health Corp will be doing in terms of their operations will be effective. But that first responder coming out to deal with that needs to be coordinated and needs to be effective, because that problem is gonna continue to grow in the years ahead. So what we're recommending is not something that's new. The last 2 years, this has weighed on me. I've thought about it a lot. I've certainly, read everything that I could on this subject, because I know that what I'm dealing with every single day as mayor, thinking about what is the best process, what's the best organizational model to help us deal with this. And so in terms of the SEC, you see the cities in the SEC that have this model. Within Alabama, there are already 2 cities that have this model, both Auburn and Mobile. And I talked to Mayor Anders and Mayor Stimson yesterday, and they told me, in fact, one of their comments was, "You'll never regret it." That coordinated focus every single day on making certain that the services of your amazing fire department, your amazing police department are coordinated, they're maximizing their resources, they're unified in their approach, they're sharing innovation, you will not regret. I believe the same thing. If I felt like the demands on us were going to maybe stay status quo or retreat, I might feel differently. But there is nothing in the data, there is nothing in what we look over the horizon that tells me it's gonna get anything but more for every single one of us. So what would that look like? If the council were to approve this, you would have an executive director of public safety. The fire chief and the police chief would report, and the 911 public safety director would report directly to that executive director of public safety. And it would be the executive director of public safety's responsibility to ensure the complete coordination of all 3 of those entities, and that they would be working seamlessly on the issues that I touched on in this brief presentation. Certainly, if this is a concept that moves out of this committee, this is something we would like to discuss further as we move through the different committees of the city council. But again, having that coordination, that focus would be important. I think for the chiefs, it gives them an opportunity to be focused on the operational side. I'll talk about this on the next slide, but I mean, how many times do we see our chiefs here? I think it would be very good to have our chiefs very focused on the operation side, and have an executive director that's focused on the whole picture, like you're focused on the entire picture of the city. So what do we think are the outcomes? Because we're not doing this just to do it. I believe there are outcomes that we will see by moving to this model. So there are 2 big overarching. I certainly think there are multiple positive outcomes, but I wanted to give you 2 that I think are very probable. First is shared optimized data analysis. Think about the amount of data we collect on things such as response times. But how much time is spent in analyzing those response times to see where you can pick up 2 seconds, 5 seconds, 7 seconds? Those seconds, we always hear seconds save lives. I know that we get response time data, but what we ask the men and women within these 2 respective departments is Herculean. And so we collect a lot of data, but focusing on how we find those precious seconds every single day is one. Number 2 is the financial management aspect of it. Right now, between the 2 departments, we have 1 account manager. I want to centralize account management. I want it to be under the public safety, executive director of public safety, with them having a shared reporting responsibility to the CFO as well. Again, if this is a concept that you think you like, this would be something we would like to probably discuss more once we got to the administration and policy committee. Next is personnel management. I know, Mr. Busby, one of the things you're always asking every single meeting is, what are our vacancies? How long have we had people? Those very important questions. Our fire department, our police department are larger than most cities in Alabama. Their budgets are larger than most cities in Alabama. they are huge entities. And so having someone that wakes up every day and thinks about not only the financial management, but the personnel management and the capital resource management of equipment and vehicles. Think about this coming budget year. This is not in my budget, by the way. I want to work through a process because I think it's very important we do that. But how many times, I know as mayor, I can only speak for myself, so I won't speak for you. Y'all are much smarter than I am. But I've been fortunate and honored to serve our city since 2001. I've been a council member and a mayor. And all 25 years, 24 years of service with the city, we look at the police budget, we look at the fire budget. And we never think about the overall overlapping integration. You know, we don't ever weigh that decision as 30, patrol vehicles more important than 2 pumper trucks, or I'm giving an example, but certainly those type of equations. And they're both very important. What I would expect an executive director of public safety is to say, we may need those 2 pumper trucks. We can get another 6 months to 12 months out of this, but we can wait here. But we feel, because we support public safety, when they walk in this room, we feel like we have to give both immediately. I think having another voice, another objective opinion, another set of analysis that looks at things holistically can do nothing but help our overall personnel, financial, and capital management. Again, we're talking about 41, 42, 43% of our total budget. The second outcome that I think we will be able to achieve is integrated training. We are very fortunate. We have an outstanding Tuscaloosa County EMA. And from time to time, we do the tabletop exercises. We do the different type of exercises that get set up. But Tuscaloosa is big. Tuscaloosa is unique. And we need the type of training that's focused on the most likely issues we are going to be facing. And one of the things that I would absolutely task this person is to ensure an integrated training that's taking on the most likely scenarios we are going to face. We understand that 16 days a year we're Alabama's largest cities, and things that you see in New Orleans are things that we saw in New Orleans over New Year's or something that can happen here. But who's to say the next threats are not drone threats? Who's to say the next threats are not some hazmat threats? I mean, this individual needs to be waking up every single day, looking at different threat levels, making certain that we are ready to tackle it. Yes, we're only a city of 115,000, but on any given Saturday, we are a city of 200,000 plus with millions of people watching us on television. You become a much bigger target. Making certain that we're trained. Now, does that mean that having this will ever stop that from happening? No, you don't know. But it will mean your response. I can assure you, will mean your response is much more effective if you've been thinking, you've been training, and you are prepared for it. So, what would be the responsibilities of that executive director? So I'll outline what I believe to be the key responsibilities. Number one is to lead the coordination across agencies for major events and emergencies. 2 is to strengthen operational leadership to allow our chiefs to be focused on the daily operations of their departments. What we put on these 2 men over here and their departments is a lot. I've always told Brent, and I told Randy before, I haven't told Mark this yet because I don't want to get the big head yet. I've always told them you have the most difficult job in the city. Because what we ask of you, the pressures we put on you, the expectations that we have, that your men and women have, that the public have, and I know that I don't know how they do what they do every single day. And as Tuscaloosa grows, as these threat levels grow, we continue to amass more and more and more. And I truly believe they need more support so they can be focused on their daily operations, and more of those macro issues that we talked about in here are assumed by the Executive Director of Public Safety. The third is to ensure financial accountability. I think every single day, making certain that we are spending the taxpayers' resources wisely. That overtime that's being granted is overtime that needs to be earned, not for someone's convenience, not for someone's paycheck, but is being earned because it makes this community safer. That type of day-to-day financial accountability will be paramount. The next is oversee E911 dispatch and municipal security. I know E911 is not something that gets talked a lot here at the city. It's because we have a county-wide E911 board. But most of the public's interaction with law enforcement or fire and rescue is through E911. And I think we all would agree we want to see improvements. That's not as simple as saying do it ourselves, because we have to work through a county board. This is something immediately I would love to assign to a new executive director who could be focused on this as part of their overall full-time responsibilities. Next is to provide that strategic oversight, to provide that long vision of where we want to go. And 5 is to report regularly to this committee. One of the things I think over time, this committee was created because public safety is our primary responsibility, our top priority as leaders in this community. But it's very difficult because of the nature of their jobs to get staff reports for you that you want to see on a bi-weekly or monthly basis. And you have been, as a council, very patient with that because you understand the demands on the chiefs. I see this person as the individual who comes at your bi-weekly or monthly meeting. I'm not sure if your meeting schedule is monthly or bi-weekly. They're the one who's reporting directly to you. They're the ones who, if you say, I've got an issue at 203 Firethorn Drive that I need help with, they are that contact with the city council so that you can expedite the concerns in your district and also discuss those concerns here at this table as part of public safety. So this is what I believe should be the next steps. I put the dates there as a matter of discussion, but it is extremely important to me that you feel comfortable with this. It's very important to me that you examine this, that you take a look under the hood, that you look at every angle of this. That's why I would recommend it go through 3 committees. By the way, I can't remember a recommendation in my career with the city that anyone's ever asked to go through 3 committees. But first would be this committee here, followed by administrative policy, followed by finance. So today is about a concept. Do we think this concept makes Tuscaloosa safer? If you believe that, then we move it on and then we get to administrative policy and we say, okay, how's this gonna work? On a day-to-day basis, what's this gonna look like? How is this gonna work? What sort of policy changes would be needed if we make this decision? And then lastly, ultimately, how do you pay for it? I mean, what in terms of, how many personnel are we looking for? How much would that cost? So we go through the process and answer as many questions as possible. Let me close with this, and now I want to answer any questions with you. We have, I know it feels like to you, because it certainly feels like to me, we have a lot that we're focused on in the city of Tuscaloosa. I will tell you all that pales in comparison to this recommendation here today. Our number 1 priority is public safety. And I would not be presenting this to you if I did not feel like it would make us stronger and safer. And I believe that these types of discussions are positive, and I look forward to hopefully working with you in making this happen. So Ms. Howard, I'm going to stop here and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
So I would like to open up the floor for questions from my colleagues, those on the committee, and the rest of the council. But before we go there, I would just like to say to Chief Delk, thank you so much for your response and your communication for how you handle the fire and waste management. That was a big concern to the community, so I want to say thank you on that. And then also, I haven't had a chance to say thank you to the fire department and for the love and support that you showed out in Texas for sending our fire department out there for that help. So thank you so much. It's nice to see us be good neighbors across the state and the nation. So on that note, Mayor, thank you for the presentation. I'm excited to hear about this position, finally. And one of the things that caught my attention is when you were talking about the ability to have quicker response times across the city. You know, for 16 days out of the year, we are the largest city in the state. And during that time, since I've been on the council over the past 2 terms, there have been times where we've had football games, and there have been issues in our districts during football games where it might not have been the biggest issue of concern for other people, but they were still issues of concern to my constituents, and to have a quicker response to those concerns mean a lot, and would have meant a lot. So to have the micromanagement and the management from a director of public safety, I can see the need of it, and I think that it is very important that we give a lot of consideration and thoughtfulness to this moving forward.
Well, again, I know this is something we can talk more about, but when we look at different modeling on staffing and things of that nature, one of the things I really want to see is the data to support the assets that we need in the field to execute the mission. Right now, we look at those 2 departments and say there's going to be 200,000 people that are coming in, or we'll have 200,000 people in 5 city blocks. Go deal with it. And we have all this data, but we need someone every day that's taking that data, that looks at it and says, this is what we need, this is what we need to stage. If we have a major fire in waste management while Alabama's playing Texas A&M,
Exactly.
what are our flow rates? What are our water rates? How much personnel are we going to have to ship out? What is our plans to make certain that we contact these departments to provide support? I mean, we have ideas and we talk about that, but I can't tell you again how much we put on them and how it takes away from the overarching of how we can more effectively deal with that moment and then other potential issues that take place. Yes, sir.
You reminded me of something, you sort of touched on it, but it had been pointed out to me, and I forgot it, that 20% of their time is sitting right there where they're sitting. And I think one way or another, whether we do this or not, I think we need to work on that. We just got a brand new fire chief. I don't want this to look like we're doing anything negative, if it goes on, negative toward Chief Delk. I think I have the utmost respect for him. I'm excited that he's our fire chief, and I don't want to do anything that would be negative toward our fire department. And I don't know, I'm not saying you feel differently, but that's just a thought I have, Mayor.
I think, Mr. Bell, I share that. And again, thank you for being part of the interview committee that helped select Chief Delk. And I think he's going to have a fantastic career. But if Alan Martin, who I have such respect for, was still our fire chief today, and chiseled veteran that he was as our fire chief for all those years, I would still be recommending this. This is not about the day-to-day of Tuscaloosa Fire Rescue or the Tuscaloosa Police Department or E911. This is about public safety has changed. The demands that we put on our public safety department, because Tuscaloosa is unique. This is what that is about, and making certain that coordination of resources from that macro level are being met, and that we're prepared, staged, and ready. So I have the highest respect for Chief Delk. I think he's going to do a fantastic job, but if we had a 20-year veteran in that position today, that would still be the recommendation. I think the bonus that for Chief Delk would be that if we were able to do this, the overwhelming part of this job maybe it won't be as overwhelming, because some of that heavy lift might get a little bit lifted. But that I can't promise that, and I'd hate to say I was delivering that.
When did you say this going into effect? Should it go through this committee?
You know, in a fiscal year sense, if I'm Carly Standridge, I'd like it to go October 1 because it fits more nicely into the overall fabric of the budget. I think you could implement it after the start of the new year. Football season is here, in a sense. Our preparations, everything we're doing. So, in a perfect world, October 1, but certainly I don't want to say if you don't do it October 1, it can't happen. I believe January 1 is also a very good start time for that to happen. What I want you to leave here today, though, to know is that I'm not saying this is something that demands it's got to be done by October 1. I believe for the long-term future of Tuscaloosa, this is the model we need. And I want to work with you in working towards that goal so that we get as many assumptions right as possible. Unlike the internet, I'm not perfect. And unlike the internet, every assumption that you think you plan for, you're not going to be able to, you're not going to get right. But I want to work with you and then work with our team to make certain we implement it the right way. I hope I answered your question in terms of the timeline.
So, any other councilman besides, because we just need to vote it out of this committee. And next, it lands with admin August 5th, and then we circle
So
back.
is that what we need to do here, are you asking for, do we need a motion in a second?
I would love for this committee to approve this concept and allow us then to move it forward to administration and policy.
I'm definitely in support of it, so I'll be a definite yes if everybody's done speaking.
Can I,
Yes, sir, you got the floor.
so, this is a huge event, huge. And I hope that, and Mayor, thank you and the chief and the others for putting together the initial concept slide deck of what the concept was. But my hope is that if this is moving forward on public safety, there is a ton of decisions and issues that have to be worked through regarding examination of manning documents, rank structure, how we're melding what together, what's getting eliminated by some of these things, where's it going? I can't even think through the things that are gonna have to be involved in melding the training, the equipment, the rank structure, of two organizations that while we lump them together under public safety as though they are a common being, the reality is that they are two very different beings.
They will, I'm just doing, they will stay Tuscaloosa Fire and Rescue, Tuscaloosa Police Department.
I understand that, but in order to, I would hope, again, I'm not on this committee, so I have zero vote on that part. But I certainly would hope, because you and I talked about, Raven, it is the logic juncture of this decision lies here at public safety. All the rest is cleanup. I mean, if we decide the logic is there to meld it, and I will say meld these two organizations under unified command, because that's the term that we used here. If the logic's there, then the admin and policy stuff and finance stuff, all of that can be worked out. I would hope that we get some experience from others who have done it and find out what they've encountered. That's my hope at how this will proceed logically.
I would not be opposed to the chairs of these committees making a trip to Auburn or Mobile or someplace and talking to them. I mean, if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, what I would like to say going forward, what I would like to dive into, and I'm in favor of it, so I'm gonna call for the vote in a minute, but on August the 5th, with the admin and policy committee, I would like to know more about how this would help us maximize our resources, because 40% of our budget does go towards public safety, so that's important that, you know, having one person that can tell us what vehicles and what, items we have for our public safety department in an efficient way is important. And also event management. I know this summer we had, Live at the Plaza and a concert going on at the amphitheater. So that's gotta be a lot on our public safety department. So if this will help our public safety department, I'm all for it, because we need our public safety department just as much as any other department in the city, so.
And I wanna add to that, and I do wanna be clear, we can give you all the data on fire and rescue, personnel, man assets, vehicles, we can get that all from PD. What we're talking about is that at the end of the day, the executive director of public safety is now looking at this as one pot of money. And when we start making those decisions, instead of us always granting everything here, everything there, let's get what is in the best interest of public safety and make those decisions. Because it may be, again, this is theoretical, it may be we need 2 pumper trucks instead of 15 patrol vehicles, or it may be we need the 15 patrol vehicles instead of the 2 pumper trucks. What we would like is that voice who could speak for public safety to say, I've looked at both. I would recommend to the mayor and to the city council, this would be the best. Right now, each chief comes to us and they make the recommendation they should. Mark is gonna come in, Chief Delk is gonna come in and say, we need 2 pumper trucks. Chief Blankley is gonna come in and say, we need 15 patrol vehicles. And the question never gets asked, well, how could we look at this a different way? And that is what I think would be important, because so much, 40 cents plus out of every dollar we spend goes into public safety. Is there a way for us to better look at this asset management and be able to address our needs? I hope I may have done a poor job of explaining that, and I apologize.
Should this go to admin, I would like to hear, and I've talked to Chief Delk about this, and I talked to Chief Clark this morning about the overtime in the departments. And I know there's always gonna be overtime, but if we could cut back, Chief Clark was talking about $300,000. I mean, we could do a lot if we could cut back on some of this overtime. I know it's gonna have to be there in some form or fashion, but I'd love to see some ideas down the road, whether it's from a new position or somewhere, about cutting back on this overtime, Mayor.
Can I say something? Thanks, Walt, for the presentation. I think it was good. I've thought a lot about this, and my comments are, for me, I'm starting to absorb this, okay? But when I was fortunate to run my own business, and I think Walt and we talked about this a little bit, I think the first thing that, if I had an issue with something, I think we're probably in this place today, is define what the problem is. I think we're kind of defining the problem on that base level. Then to me, what is the solution to it? I think we've started talking about part of that solution today, in my opinion. Because if we're going to create a new position in the city of Tuscaloosa, that position will be hard to get rid of. It'll be hard to pull back. It'll be hard to say, well, maybe we should have talked about this, or we should have done this. That's why I like the fact of us slowly kind of going through this, because when it comes to this form of public safety, I think it's important when we talk about Mobile, Auburn. I'm glad you put some other cities up there too. I would like to personally hear the positives and the negatives. If you redid this, if the city of whatever, if you had to do this over again, would you do this? I'd be surprised if one of them didn't say no. Don't know that. Maybe all of them say yes. And here's why we're doing it and why this is so important. I think that's my concern, is just making sure that we really take our time and dive into this. And I think we started that today, because if there are some of these things that we're worried about, are there adjustments we could do without doing that? I don't know. I mean, I think that's an important question that we need to ask and come to the best decision as a group about what's the right thing for the city, because I'm not sitting here saying I'm against this. It's just, I wanna understand 100% what we're trying to do, because again, if we go down this path, it's hard to take it back. It's hard to say, we don't want that job anymore, or we're gonna do this, or whatever.
We make the rules.
Well, we do make the rules, Cassius, but I will promise you, if to your point, I don't agree with that, because I would like for us to give me an example of a position that we've terminated or pulled back in the city. It doesn't happen a lot.
I think it's
It
very,
doesn't, and I think that's important to make sure we do
and
that.
I think it's very important that you know that this recommendation is not based on fixing something.
Yeah.
This is not a recommendation to fix something, it's about being better.
And I will, in my mind, it's streamlining processes. And I think the logic behind it is kind of what you said too, Councilman, because anytime you got two separate entities and they've got one mission, I mean, the mission of both entities are to keep the city of Tuscaloosa safe. So I think in order to combine it, you probably would need somebody over the two to combine the two to make sure that we're working towards the goal, and that's to keep the city safe, you know, whether it be fire. And at the end of the day, we still got a fire chief, we still got a police chief. Who the firemen answer to, who the policemen answer to, is just now we've got somebody overseeing both in my mind. So it makes sense to me.
And I think it's something, and I've talked about this, Tim. I would not wanna see this person micromanage either
No.
department. I don't think that would happen, but I just wanna say that publicly, that I think that would ruin the whole thing if it's.
I agree, I do agree with that.
I think it would be almost, again, operationally impossible. I've had the pleasure and honor for the last 20 years to see the portfolios of these two departments grow immensely. What we're talking about is a very strategic level position. And what I'm excited about is it gives our chiefs a real opportunity to be focused on those day-to-day operations, those tactical operations, those things that make it safer for our men and women and make their response to the public even better. I can't say enough. What we task them to do, what I task them to do, what we as a community task them to do, what the council asks of them to do is a lot. And I think we have an opportunity to build a structure that can make us better, safer, stronger. It's not about fixing something. It's about what we can be to be stronger, to meet the challenges. I'll close with this, Ms. Howard. Think about it. In the last 40 years, think about the things that have changed, whether it's terrorism, cybersecurity, public health, mental health, social unrest, climate change. I don't think any of this room think those lists of demands are diminishing. And I think we need to prepare for a structure that can best meet those needs. And you have my commitment to work with this committee. If you have a better structure, if there's a better process to work through this, I'm open to it.
I say, this was it's a huge decision that's before us, and I don't have much to say except I'm looking, because I really want to delve into all of this and take it all in, not make any. That's why I'm glad it's going slow, because that's it's so massive. One of the things I'm thinking about too, if we decide to do this, how will the commissioner or whatever be selected? Will it be a search like it was for the police chief and fire chiefs? There's just a lot of questions that I've got, and I'm just, as we talked on the phone last night, I'm glad that we are being very methodical and taking the time, so that I think we can all really feel good about the decision that each one of us made.
Mayor, can we have a copy of the presentation?
Absolutely. I'll ask Stacy to send it to you in a PDF.
All right, so can I get a motion in a second to have this moved to the August 5th admin and policy committee
I'll
meeting?
make a motion.
So,
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Is there anything else to come before this committee? Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.